So basically what that's doing is like, so it starts off on first starts off as true, so this only applies to the 0 button, like that only applies to the 1 button pretty much. So if you push 0, it'll go to the first one, and then if you push any operator, which is lower down, so it'll turn on first, off, and turn on second. It probably created it differently.
I'm gonna go wrangle people up.
Yeah, I knew there was an easier way to do it, but this is just, you know, from my knowledge, the only way that I knew how.
I would say that a better way to do this is to this can be applied to and those three conditions really are this valve grabs the like value of the value property and then has an operator number. So the number operator is an operator, right? So first of all, if it's input type number, you know it's not. Yes, valve is a function that belongs to other than number. So how do we display the operator on screen? Input type equals not a number. First we have to then the select having I'm trying to figure out this number over and I click right here. So let's say we all have and then here we set our number.
No, trust me, I've been spending that
Weird, that's it. Everything.
I don't know if this example is any different, but I got this from these guys over there. This has like switches and stuff. Theirs is basically like first and second operator.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So they're doing it similar like what you're doing, except they're basically saying if this case exists, well, this is I would say
I've used them a little bit, but not like what I just typed kind of like other people like do like I don't know like like 37 or something like that. Like I would do like on would be like
Exactly.
And then it would switch.
If you know what you're doing and you stay able to
like when you push up,
right there where there's like so much race on it.
Yeah. But what was important isn't that like we didn't have not like what but you guys were problem solving, you guys were figuring it out. So that was really good. I didn't give you guys the answers.
And I appreciate that.
So you guys were learning. That's like the value.
All right.
It's cool that you guys are doing that. Don't worry, when it comes to how do I make it look nice, I'll be asking you. It just seems like it's like it's horrible.
Wait on a couple more people, and then we're gonna talk. All right. I know everyone's still kind of going over their solutions, and this one was really tough. And I don't know if anyone actually finished. Did anyone finish? Any groups finish? You guys finish? You guys finish? Nice. Awesome work. No problem.
we were challenged to add in cosine.
He's a better teacher. He's my brother. We're both back in development. But they didn't take a play.
Well, that makes sense.
They have an extra part of
Unlike my yeah, they're grabbing.
Okay, everyone. We're gonna go over the solution really quick. Fist 5. How was that one? Come on, I'm gonna ask. Okay. All over the board. Yeah, that one was tough. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't my activity, man. Yeah, is that what that means? All right. So there were a lot of moving parts to this, right? So we had the number buttons we had to click, so that we could, get our different numbers and put them into the calculator, get ready to add them or operate on them. We had the operators we had to click. We had the clear button we had to click. We had the enter button to calculate the result. And once you've got all that, you've effectively got a calculator, right? Sounds easy when I say it that way. So what we're going to do is break it down into the easiest parts. And I'm going to type some of it. I'm going to copy some of it from their solution. So I'm not going to type everything. Because if I did, probably just the typing would take me 15 minutes. So probably the easiest place to start is just your basic clear function, right? So if we make a function, we'll just call it clear, okay? Well, what we need to do is we need to take all the existing operators, and we need to reset them, right? The point of clear is when I have stuff on the calculator and I want to start over and do another operation, I can't because of all the logic in my calculator, so I need a way to restart effectively. First thing you need to do, reset those operators. Second thing you need to do, reset the jQuery, or reset the HTML DOM elements, right? So we have a first number, second number, operator, and result. If you just call .empty, all that HTML that you have stored in there, gone. Next. Quick. Then we need a way to call the clear function. So if we scroll up in our HTML, we have a button clear here as the ID. We could use that. Or there's a clear class. So to be consistent, why don't we just use the class? Clear. Oops. So on click, and then we can just call our clear function. Bang. Clear button done. That was the easy one. All we had to do is reset stuff, right? For good measure, at the very end of your script, before we do anything else, not a bad idea to call clear, right? Just because. Alright, so why don't we take the first number, or the numbers, and let's try to get those done. So we had a number class that we could use for our buttons. Right? And the first thing we need to do, well, there's a lot of different things we could do here to prevent, being able to, say, add more numbers to the first number after you have an operator, or add numbers to the second number after you click the result, or change the result, or anything like that. So our total we have is where we're storing the result. So after we hit enter, we shouldn't be able to do anything else. So if we just check total dot length is greater than 0, right? Because that means we have something in total. We can just return. Boom, we're done. We don't need anything to happen with a click. We can just go ahead and get out of there. So the next thing, before we've chosen an operator, first things first, when we start clicking on numbers, okay, we're going to add them to that first number string. And I didn't show it well in my example. Stephanie showed it later, but you could have as many numbers as you wanted in that first number. So obviously it needs to be a string. We couldn't just add the numbers up together It'd be really hard to like maintain all that math and make it actually work how the user would expect. So we can say if operator dot length equals 0, or you could basically check if the operator is an empty string, right? You could do either one of those. Keep that one. Then the first number, I call it input 1, is going to equal this dot val. So val is how we get the value. So all the numbers are stored in these values. You can just do this dot val. Now, when we have an operator already, we no longer want to add to the first number, right? We want to add to the second number. So in this case, we just input 2. So basically what we have is if we already have a result, we're done. We're not doing anything. If we don't have an operator, we're adding to the first number. If we do have an operator, we're adding to the second number. Okay? So that covers how to add a number. Oh, I forgot one thing. We also need to update the HTML DOM, right? So in that case, we can simply set the text to the appropriate input. So remember, when we're selecting stuff with jQuery, we can use CSS type selectors. So if we're using the hashtag, the #, octothorpe, whatever you call it, that's by ID. When we use the dot, that's by class, just like in CSS. Alright, so now we need the operator. And for the operator, if we already have an operator, we don't have a first number, or we have a result, we don't want to do anything, right? So we can do if operator does not equal empty string, or input 1 equals empty string, right? We don't have an input, or total does not equal an empty string. We can just return. These are the operations where we don't want an operator. Okay, we already have an operator. That's the first one. Or we don't have a first number, or we have a total. Okay, so now operator doesn't need to be plus equals, right? Because we only want one. And then we can update the jQuery or update the DOM. With our operator. And that should cover the operator. So lastly, we need our result. Now, just to let you all know, I'm solving this right now. The solution that we're going to Slack out after isn't quite the same. It's done slightly different, but effectively the same way, right? I'm short-circuiting some stuff. They have more variables. So we will Slack out the solution that you will be able to use, but I want to show you how else it could be done. Okay, so first things first. If the total does not equal empty string, right? Oops. Then we're done, because we already have a total. Okay? If input 1 equals empty string, or input 2 equals empty string, or operator equals empty string. So if we don't have any of those things, then we can return. Right? We can't do anything. We can't add everything up if we don't have any of those things set up. We need all three of them to do anything. Okay? So now what do we need to do? we need to turn input 1 and input 2 into legitimate numbers, right? We can use this parse int function. To turn them into numbers. So now, assuming they were legitimate numbers, they should be transformed into numbers. So I'm going to copy the next one because it's a bit longer. We'll set the result to 0. Actually, we'll set the result to 0. Okay. And I'm actually going to change this to first number, just so it matches this example, and second number. It's all consistent. Okay. So you can see here the operator. If we scroll up to the HTML, the value of the operators are actually in word form. Power, divide, times, minus. It's just easier that way. And I think there can be problems too when you pull the strings out as the different operators with the JavaScript freaks out. So what we're doing is we're taking all the operators, we're taking the number version of our numbers that we entered in as a user, adding them together, subtracting them, multiply, divide, whatever you're doing, or power, and you're getting a result. We're storing it in the text here of the result element, and then we're updating that total variable, turning it into a string from a number, and putting it right there. Okay? So, assuming I didn't make any mistakes, which I probably did. Yeah, so I did with the operators. So we can pick however many numbers. Click plus. It says plus right now. And then we can pick any other numbers, hit enter, and looks like the math is all messed up too. Oh no. That's right. You missed a 5? Oh yeah. No, that's right. Okay. Hit clear. Boom. We start fresh. 8 to the 9 power. Yeah, looks right. So how on the Jesus. So for the operator, instead of val, I could do I can get the text here and then store the operator as our word still. Because the text actually had the real operator, right? So, boop. There. Now that's solved. The issue was I was getting the value. The value of the operator was... That's not the right one. The value of the operator, I was getting val out as operator here, and I was putting it in the operator div, right? So the value of the operators, as you can see, is the word form, but the text is actually the real operator form, so plus, minus, and all that. So when I'm showing it on the screen, I'm showing the text version, right? But when I'm pulling it into the operator variable, I'm storing the val version, so then I can do some if statements off of the val version later. I don't need to. I never need to, because right here I'm actually doing the math operations. You can see I have, if the operator is plus, then I'm going to run the plus. If the operator is minus, I'm going to run the minus. If it's times, I'm going to run the times. If it's divide, so on and so forth, right? So this is how you would determine what operator have I chosen, and how do I actually get my result off of that operator. You can use a bunch of if-else statements, or a switch if you know how to use those. So the equals is the toughest part for sure. in that you need to check a bunch of stuff. If we've already got a total, we don't want equals to do anything. Okay? If we don't have all of our parts to make a total, we don't want to do anything. Our inputs, we need to turn those into real numbers, so you got to use this parseInt. And then we need to calculate a result from the math operations that we could potentially have. And then lastly, we need to update the text of the result so that we can see it on screen. Okay? So I know this is a really tough exercise. The TAs will slack out a solution that you can look at home, and I recommend you play with it. We have a quick quiz we have to take. And we have to take it in class. Was that? Yeah, I can slack out my version too. Absolutely, I will do that. So we have a quiz. I need you to take it here in class. You can slack the link to the quiz? Okay. Chris is going to slack a link to the quiz. It's 10 minutes. It does not affect your grade. It does, you know, it's not to harm you or anything like that. All it is to let us know where you are in terms of your knowledge. It's a real JavaScript quiz. Don't look up anything. Don't use help from a partner. Try to do this by yourself so we can get a real accurate view of your JavaScript knowledge to help us tailor the content of the course. This isn't made by me. This is made by Trilogy so that they can, you know, affect pace and all that stuff and the things they need to teach as we go on. So Chris is going to slack it out. Take it. You have 10 minutes to take it. Take it here in class.
Previous weeks there was like there was one for Monday, Wednesday, and one for Tuesday.
Yeah, we combined those.
We combined them for this one. Yeah. So just take whatever one you get to in the link.
If you can't find your name, let me know, but we combined them.
Alright, so here's the deal. You have a few more minutes to take the quiz. If you want to stay, one of the TAs will be going over the answers to the quiz and explaining them, and we can talk through them. If you want to stay, talk about the calculator game more, I'll be happy to do that. Stay if you want. Otherwise, go home and have fun. And I'm turning up the stream now.